Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Spiritual Spiral. We have an amazing guest for you this week. Before we get there, I'm your host, Sam Davidson, of course, joined by my good friend and co-host, Sari Cohen. How are we doing this week?
Great. I am so excited to be talking to Colin today.
Yes, guys, we have Queer Cosmos in the house. Colin Badell, he runs this amazing Instagram account, and he's a fantastic astrologer, and he's so funny. And you guys probably know him if you follow like Astrology spiritual accounts. So yay, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Well, first I want to kind of get to know you and how you got interested in astrology, and how did you learn, or was it just something that you kind of always knew?
Ooh, great question. So I think that most people in the community have all determined that it really seizes them, and it's just a matter of like what we do with that, right? So I started learning astrology when I was 12 because my mother spoke about it in the house all the time. She didn't know about natal charts, but she read Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, which is like, I think the first astrology book to ever be a New York Times #1 bestseller.
Wow.
Yeah.
I totally remember that book. Yes.
Of course, right. So it's huge in like certain homes, and she would always just use it around the house. Like, oh, your father, he's such a Leo, and you, the Gemini twin, forget it. And she's a double Cancer mom. So it was just always there, and we just spoke about it. And then I remember the very first day where I typed in GEMINI on like AOL.com just to myself, and it took me ever since. And then a few weeks ago, because I was quarantined at my twin sister's home in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she was opening her scrapbook and she found the very first printout that we ever did of astrology in like 2003.
Wow.
So yeah, I was like, so it was really then. And then I just always loved it, and I was reading it and researching it because I also think that queer people, and really anybody who's not a straight white cisgendered male, they feel a sense of belonging when archetypal analysis like astrology celebrates otherness as a source of power. So we were always in the metaphysical aisles and just like learning about tarot, numerology, astrology, witchcraft. We just found such solace there. And then in my early 20s, I found the principles of A Course in Miracles at like 23, 24. So during my second Jupiter return. So essentially, whenever you turn an age that's divisible of 11 and a half or 12, you go through a significant spiritual renewal. Okay, so I can already see the look of recognition on your face. I'm going to ask about that. And then when I was 24 and I brought the principles of A Course in Miracles to astrology, it just created a whole new dimension in my physical experience. And then a few years later, I just started doing it professionally because I had professional astrologers at the time telling me like, stop doing this shit for free. Like, come on, And then 27, 28 is when I started my website. 2 weeks later, I was fired from my day job when I started it. And then here the fuck I am.
That's amazing.
That's my long-winded E! True Hollywood story.
I love that story. Well, the universe put you exactly where you were supposed to be.
Right, and I think for all of us, that's what I believe that's what's happening. And have you ever read anything by Eckhart Tolle, either one of you?
I
Yeah, so I'm reading his book right now, A New Earth. And I was like, or is it The Power of Now? A New Earth. And he's essentially saying that like whatever the present moment is, comes prepared with all the lessons that you need and all the things that you ever want. And whenever we reject that because we think it's not good enough, or it should be this, it should be that, we're not aligning that cosmic intelligence to take us where we need to be, to do what we need to do, to have the results that we would want to have expressed. So
totally. It makes our path a lot longer. Or it's like beating your head against a wall.
Yeah, and then wondering why you have a headache.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, we've been dying to have an astrologer on because we have like a lot of mediums on and healers, and they talk a little bit about astrologically what's been going on during this pandemic, and like how it's basically just everything happened at once astrologically. So can you kind of dumb it down for us and explain like back in March, what was going on with the cosmos here? And like, did you feel that something like this was coming because you were looking ahead at the year and like, damn, what's going to happen here in the spring?
Right. So technically, astrologers knew something was going to go down in January. Right? So there was something known as the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which happens every 30 years, 29 to 30 years. No, actually, no, a little bit more infrequent than that. I want to say 36, 37. So almost every 40, I'm going to just spitball there, but not frequently, right? In historical memory. So when they were talking about this Saturn-Pluto conjunction, that's when transiting Saturn, which is this tattoo right here, forms a conjunction to Pluto. Saturn is the planet of structure, karma, and regeneration. No, excuse me, that's Pluto. So when Saturn and Pluto got together, it was really a kind of regenerative energy around all things Capricorn, which have to do with like hierarchy, politics, and that which would keep us separate. Mm. So when Saturn rules like discipline and karma, and Pluto rules death and regeneration, in the sign of government, in the sign of things that are no longer serving the civilization in which we live, we had a feeling January would create a container that would change life as we knew it. We just didn't know what. And I am almost positive the first COVID diagnosis was January 10th or 11th, and the exact conjunction was January 11th.
Yeah, it was definitely around, I think, for sure.
Right. In the US, it was like right then. I know we saw it in China, November, December, but then here was the first positive diagnosis in December. So then when March rolled around, that was when Saturn re-entered Aquarius for the first time since the early 90s, right? And that, I think Aquarius is the fixed air sign, you know, because it's your moon sign, Sam, that has to do with shared humanity, unity consciousness, and the fact that who we are and what we believe affects the collective as we know it.
Yeah.
And I really believe that, like, intellectually spiritual seekers know that, but we've never really had an emotional experience quite like this to go, oh my God, but how often do I apply it? Right? And so it really was like a choir of transits, not a soloist, honestly. But I think what we're all realizing right now is that we cannot believe, and we cannot continue believing that what we think, what we feel, and who we choose to be does not have a quantum impact on all sentient beings. We just cannot do that anymore, right? That's the power of Aquarius, and the notion of when we, you know, a rising tide raises all ships. None of us are free unless all of us are free. And I think we're seeing in America just the vast limitation of the fact that if you are not rich, you die. Like, let's be real. Like, my friend just told me about the fact that she has to get dental surgery because of an improper job. It's going to cost her $13,000. Who has that lying around?
It's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. Right? And this is the country we live in. And so these experiences are reminding us that, like, the economic gap, the racial gap, like, why are we a for-profit medical industrial complex? Has the United States really properly amended and atoned for its involvement in the transatlantic slave trade? Of course not, right? Yes, slavery ended in 1860, but legalized white supremacy was institutionalized until the mid-1960s. So there's just so much that America is reckoning with, and the world. And I think what these transits are telling us is that if we want to heal, it has to be detox. It has to be brought up first. And we must confront this pain in order to transform it. If we don't, we're not inhabiting the fullness of this experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I see some people willing to confront some things while others don't.
Right.
I found it interesting. A couple of years ago, I had gone to a spiritual retreat, and the consensus among everybody in that community was that the way that the stars were aligning, something really bad was going to go down, and they were comparing it to the plague. Nobody knew. Everybody had guesses. Everybody had these ideas of, like, but I remember just the overall consensus was things are going to get dark. Things are really going to get dark. And I think because astrology is such, well, it's one of the oldest predictive tools we have. Yeah. I'm wondering, like, you know, nobody really talked what was going to happen moving past it. So considering we all do our homework now, or
we're trying
to, I know. I mean, how do you see this evolving?
Well, I love that happened at a spiritual retreat. That's amazing. Yeah, a friend of mine, Jessica Lanyado, we were having a conversation years before this during the wildfires in Canada. And she's like, I just think it's not now, but there's going to be something airborne. There's going to be something. And she predicts this to a T. What I believe could emerge on the other side of this is kind of the fact that, like, yes, we knew something dark was going to happen, but in all the world's leading theologies and mythologies and secular teachings and religions, like, we know that in the space of darkness is when we can actually exhibit the greatest amount of light. And I think that what lies before us is the choice of like, okay, who are we going to be while we're in the space of what's happening? Are we actually going to do the work? Are we actually going to uncover our unconscious biases around race, gender, and class? Are we actually going to ask different questions around why we believe that a for-profit medical industrial complex is the way to go in the United States? We're the only advanced nation that doesn't have socialized medicine. What is going on here? Why does half of our American budget go to the military industrial complex? We spend more money learning how to kill other people abroad than we do learning how to educate our own people. And this light, and the Course in Miracles defines light as understanding. So spiritual seekers need to be the ones in these conversations, especially because it's Aquarius, it's the North Node in Gemini, the air energy, as you were saying, Sam, right? Learning how to communicate, learning how to convey advanced ideas. We need to be the most articulate, critical thinking, compassionate, and empathetic voices in every room. Because if you know what changes a heart, you know what changes the world. And we cannot be the ones sitting these conversations out because we're hard, we're triggered, our past life, our trauma. No. And that's Jupiter and Capricorn talking, by the way. So anyway, Sam, go ahead.
I'm just like, Colin, please run for office. Like,
no. Oh my God. Oh, I couldn't. I love American history. I would be cool. But shit, man. Nobody wants a gay Long Islander in the White House, I'm telling you.
I
do. All right, I strongly think about it, and we'll say it happened on Spiritual Spiral first.
Well, as far as, what is coming up, like, have you looked at the next year astrologically to kind of, like, what have you seen? And because a lot of the people we interview, and I love them, and I'm so grateful because they are honest. They are like, it's still going to be rough for a little while. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat it, but give us some light, but also, tell us the truth. And like, what do you see with the planets?
So there is a conjunction with Saturn and Jupiter known as the Great Conjunction on the winter solstice on December 21st.
Okay.
And so I think it's going to happen 2 more times in 2022, I want to say. I'm almost positive it will. And I think what I see is there will be light at the end of this experience. There's no doubt about it. But Mars is about to go retrograde. We're in the shadow period right now. We have an election coming up soon. So yeah, we're still doing the excavating and really kind of ripping out the worst of the garbage. But I have a belief that come 2021, if we're showing up and really asking ourselves these critical questions and reacting from a place of resilience and intelligence and shared humanity and really strong verbal communication skills as well, I believe that we will get to the place of hope and aspiration and transformation. I do. But I really believe that first what we need to understand is our own sovereignty, our own freedom and power, because with Mars retrograde after Venus retrograde, which we had from May 13th through June 27th, that was the Venus retrograde movement in Gemini. Now we're about to have Mars retrograde from September 13th to November 13th. And then 2 weeks later, it's eclipses and right?
Oh,
so you're right. No, 2020 won't let up. And so with Mars retrograde, I think what this actually asks us to do is find ways in which we can take and reclaim our agency, sovereignty, freedom, and power through being very specific about what we want.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure you guys have seen, like, in conversations, whether it's relationally or just with family, we're real fluent about what we don't want, not so articulate about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real way for us to avoid vulnerability, real way for us to stay in control, real way for us to kind of just be the critic, but not the contributor.
Exactly, to deflect.
And it happens all the time. I think it's a power move for sure, because when we're in wanting and in desire, yes, we are emotionally exposed, but we're actually the most powerful. And there's a lot of social scripts that we have externally that would tell us the opposite, like especially for women, especially for queer people, especially for multiply marginalized intersections. It's like, who are you to want what you want, when you want it, how you want it, right? But that's what we need to do first. Like, how can we actually create wanting and desire as life generative, as sustaining, as vibrant, as powerful and sovereign, so that we're in the personhood required for the times in which we live come 2021. That's what I would say. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that makes
That's huge. I feel like I'm working on exactly what you just said.
Oh, really?
Like this is exactly the work that, I mean, I think Sam and I both are part of why we are doing this is because we are extremely sensitive to things. And, you know, it's not, I don't know a lot about astrology.
Okay.
I mean, that's when we were talking about like her, I mean, I'm so into my sign and that, but I couldn't even tell you couldn't tell you any more of that.
It's okay.
And
You're supposed to know your sun sign. Yeah.
I want to know. Yes, these are things that I definitely want to know because
right.
because that is something that I do follow with. It's the phases of the moon and certain things that the way the stars align. I can definitely. I feel at one with the stars, so I should be educating myself more.
Well, there's no should, because you are the stars. Our DNA literally comes from the Big Bang and just cosmology. It's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what astrologers are for, right? And then you just want to honor whatever comes naturally for you and your gifts and abilities. And I'd be like, I don't know how to fucking do that. Okay.
It's weird when you're in tune to it, because you can actually pay attention when something's going on, at certain times, even if you're not like consciously aware.
Yes.
Your body is in tune to it. And I'm wondering too, because like for someone like me who does believe, like I'm a Cancer, and I'm very
because when you guys were talking about your friends, who was like, there's a Cancer energy here. Go ahead.
Oh, totally. I'm all love and home and shelter, and I want to take care and all. And it's interesting because I'm wondering that you, on the other end of it, people who don't necessarily buy into it, but you could still tell what sign they are. You could still tell
It makes me laugh, you guys, because in the astrological community, if I said, all right, so what sun signs are like probably the most skeptical of this whole fucking thing, right? They would say Sag, Capricorn, Aquarius, like in that order. And whenever I've gone to guest shops or anything related to astrology that have like, horoscope magazines, lighters with the zodiac signs on it, the ones that are always in the surplus are Capricorn, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. Like they're still there because no one's buying them, right? But all the water signs gone. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, they got the most pride. They love this shit. Air signs are like, oh, this is a reason for me to talk. Cool, right? And then the fire signs like, OD loud, right? Yeah, I'm a Leo, I'm an Aries, blah, blah, blah. But Sag, they're like, I don't care about that. But no, I think, listen, there no theology, spiritual system, secular-based technique, none of this has a monopoly on truth. So if somebody doesn't believe in it, I'm like, I don't fucking care. But I just hope whatever you do believe in works for you. Because speaking of it from a spiritual perspective, there are a lot of people in our community who claim to believe in these things. And how's that working for them so far?
Yeah.
So I don't really care about whether or not people believe in it. I want to know, do your results prove it? And the results will out itself right away. So like, you're going to walk in and send out an energy like, I actually apply these things, right? So that's what I'm always looking for, is like how it's actually manifest in the experience rather than whether or not they claim to believe in it. So, yeah.
Let's talk about this full moon that happened last night.
Shall we?
Yes. And what it, means, because I actually, until the other day, I was like, what's the moon in? I didn't know. I didn't realize it was going to be one of my signs, which is Aquarius. But like, what does that mean for someone that has an Aquarius moon specifically, for the moon to be Aquarius moon?
Okay, so the moon enters a new sign every 2.5 days, and we have an annual full moon in that zodiac sign every annual frequency, right? And we'll have a full moon in a zodiac sign when the sun is transiting its polar opposite sign, Leo, right? So Aquarius, Leo, right? So we'll always have the full moon in Cancer when the sun is in Capricorn, which I think is really beautiful because we only have a full moon in its polarity, and polarity is considered like the conflict energy, but yet it creates the full moon. So like, what are you talking about, kind of thing? Now, but related to what the full moon in Aquarius would offer for Aquarius energy, particularly Aquarius moons, is the moon sign rules emotionality, it rules vulnerability, it rules our survival mechanisms, and it's also where we go when we're in our deepest joy. Like it's the crown jewel of our chart. It's where we're comfortable, but it's not where we grow. Unless you have the same moon sun sign, right? Now, for Aquarius energy, there is this mythology, which I have never believed in, PS, about how like Aquarius moons are emotionally detached, they don't cry, they're insensitive, blah, 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 blah. So I'm sure that what this weekend provided you with was an emotional landscape that you may or may not have saw coming, or emotional realizations that you were just like, I thought I was over that, or I didn't even know I felt this way about this person, or why am I so tired? Are my boundaries where they need to be? Are my expectations being vocalized? All this stuff, right? Because if the moon rules safety and the full moon is in Aquarius and the full moons represent culminations, there's a transition about the landscape of your emotional safety and how you're doing regulating and protecting it. And so if you had, a theoretically calm, cool, collected one, you could liken that to the universe saying like, congratulations, Sam, you're right where, the universe wants you to be. Mm-hmm. Whereas if maybe something came up that you didn't saw coming, you want to ask yourself, why didn't I see that coming?
Yeah.
So of all of that effing diatribe, where are you at?
Let's see. Well, I guess this past weekend, it was one of those things where I saw, some family and like a friend at a distance in a backyard. And I was doing this thing where I'd go home and go to sleep and be like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Like, I said too much. I was like replaying conversations in my head, like, oh, I hope they didn't think I was weird or inappropriate or out of line.
Aquarius. Yes.
Yeah, for saying that. And I'm like, why am I replaying these? It's in my head all the time. It's so weird. But then yesterday I was like preparing, gonna do my full moon ritual, like put my crystals outside, all of that. And I was getting like good news. Like I had a couple like good things come in yesterday and I felt like really good. So, and then this morning I woke up, my mom was cleaning very early and woke me up and now I'm grumpy all day. But yesterday was good. It was really good.
Well, that's great. Well, honestly, I would say that the replaying your head of like, oh God, what did I do? Did I say too much? That feels very Libran, actually.
Yeah.
Right? But the moon in Aquarius would just kind of be like, yo, fuck it. At least I spoke.
Yeah.
Like at least I showed up and I was available and I was like, cool. Like definitely was nervous about being weird because that's always like the Aquarius quality of like, oh God, am I too much for these people? Right? Like, I'm so weird. People are gonna think I'm nuts, right? But no, and I think the fact that you got good news and the fact that you're home, like that's all very much like an annual full moon quality. And then rather than the replay of, oh God, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have done that, just be like, look, I was available, I was present, and I'm not going to make up stories in my head that just are patently untrue. Because you know what, Sam? I find that most people are not thinking about us because they're doing exactly what you're doing and thinking they fucked up. Most people have their head shoved so far up their own ass that they don't even fucking realize what you may or may not have done. So set yourself free from any burden that you think people are going, oh, you will not believe the way Sam said this. No, because they're just as fucking, self-involved and wondering what they did that might have pushed people away than you. That's my Capricorn moon assessment, but I could be way off.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on.
Right? It's true. Most people are so like, oh God, that they don't even realize. So like, girl, you sleep soundly every night going, in a peaceful and relaxing and almost blunt way, ain't nobody thinking about me. Ain't nobody worried about me because they're just as fucking worried about themselves.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I say to myself, like, God, you're not the center of the universe. Calm down. Nobody cares about you.
Right.
Nobody's thinking about you.
You're the center of your universe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, and people care about you, I'm sure. That's why your mom was vacuuming.
Course.
She was like, honey, I want you to have a clean house. But no, it's just most people don't even take that into account because they are so worried about how they came across and what their presence was. So like, I just say whatever the fuck comes to my mind unapologetically. I'm just like, if other people like it. So that's my astrology. Yeah.
I'm wondering too, because I do like to, and even though like I need to learn much more about it, I do use what little astrology I do know, kind of like almost like therapy to me. I know as like that I am a moon child. I know, the phases of the moon influence me, certain alignments. And I'm wondering like what is coming up in the world? Like what are the next big phases or alignments that are coming up that people can be aware of, that they can kind of, I don't know, maybe improve on something like?
For me, I think the Mars retrograde is going to be a big one, right? So September 13th to November 13th, we have monthly new moons and monthly full moons. So that's pretty frequent and deeply significant. Don't get me wrong. We're going to have the new moon in Leo, I think on August 18th, followed by the full moon in Pisces 2 weeks later. So there's something every 2 weeks, new moon, full moon, right? So that's important. But related to, I think, where 2020 is going to put like a ribbon on top of this experience, back to Mars retrograde, right? So really thinking about, based on culture, family of origin, and just your external realities, how does desire feel for you? How do you own what you want? Right? Do you feel like you have to explain and defend and contextualize? Do you feel like you're not allowed? And there's a lot of different ways in which desire is nuanced and complicated based on race, gender, sexuality, and class, right? But it is important for us to remember that those external realities that were imposed upon us are not, they're worldly. So we're working with otherworldly energies that acknowledges it, but transcends it. So what Mars retrograde is saying is like, are you actually going to start naming what you want and pursuing your career and your desires and your relationships fearlessly? Because if you don't, I don't want to know why you're surprised that your life isn't working. So everybody, let's try to detangle desire from danger. And I also think too, what the higher consciousness crowd could benefit from is just less emphasis on trauma treatment and vigilance and self-protection, and a little bit more emphasis on trauma recovery. Because like the bones are broken, guys. Like take the cast off.
Yeah.
Enough. Right? Start reintegrating. Start claiming your power.
Yeah.
You know? And start acting from that place of like, I am worthy, I want it, I got it. Rather than, oh, I can't because this and that and da 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 da, and I'm scared and I'm vigilant. And no, it's like, are these people going to bring about the civilization that's going to survive COVID? No. So that's what, you know, and Jupiter's in Capricorn right now until the end of December. And Capricorn energy, disciples and masters of tough love. Like, what do you think? You're the only one that's got a story that can break your heart, sweetie? You know. Get over yourself, right? That's big Capricorn energy. And Jupiter entered Capricorn December 2018. So if it speaks on resilience and emotional self-mastery, is the universe going to give us like, you know, an easy breezy, beautiful cover girl 2020? No. Because how are we going to learn how to be resilient if everything's like just going the way I want, you know? So there's so many things that like are going to contextualize this, but bar none, I think Mars retrograde in Aries, and then 2 weeks later are the eclipses in Gemini, Sagittarius. Then Jupiter enters Aquarius, Saturn re-enters Aquarius. Oh yeah. So it's like, this is a nice little like, all right, everybody catch your breath because we're gonna have to go swimming again. We're gonna do another deep dive. Boom.
That is exactly what I feel like right now. That's how I keep describing to people what is going on. You just nailed it.
Oh really?
Exactly that. It's what it feels like intuitively. Yeah. And then yeah. You're gonna
astrology, intuition intersecting that, yeah.
Are there ever any good retrogrades? It's always very negative.
I know. Honestly, Sam, I believe that every retrograde is good. And I believe that because I do not believe that the universe is out to harm us. I believe that we harm each other and call it a lot of different things. Self-protection, self-love, but we're still harming ourselves.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I don't care what mustard and sprinkles you fucking put on it. If it ain't working, don't call it what it is. Okay? And I think that retrogrades are opportunities for each and every one of us to go, wait a minute, let me just stop and review. You're supposed to put the verb, any verb that begins with RE, like reassess, reunite, reprogram, return, in your life. And Mercury, for example, I was born during a Mercury retrograde. You can see in your natal chart if you have personal planets retrograde. We usually have some outer planets retrograde because they are for like 5 or 6 months. But the personal planets happens a little less infrequently. Well, they happen frequently, but for shorter periods of time. And so knowing that, I really realized that like modernity just moves too fast. It doesn't give us the time to stop, think, reflect, and integrate our learning into our personhood so that we can make different choices based on what we've learned. So retrogrades just say, all right, everybody, slow down, catch your breath, and also cross off those items of those to-do lists. Stop adding new shit. Have you seen your fucking closet? It's disgusting. Get rid of it. Get rid of the garbage in there, because before you buy all these new clothes, look at this mess. So that's what it inspires us to do, is just slow down, reintegrate. And then when the planets move direct, we're meant to apply that new learning into our lives so that we can have that integrity and the wholeness that the universe wants us to have.
Yep, very true. You also sound like my mother right now.
What's your mom's sign? I love that I can give
Gemini.
mom energy. Yeah, just like me. See?
I know.
Oh,
and I have a Mars in Cancer, so like I can definitely be like Big Mama house, you know, but I love it. Go ahead.
So there was sometime last year, I was at an event and there was a tarot reader, and I like paid her to, do my cards. And when she found out I was all air, she was like, oh, like it was,
She really made that face?
Yeah, kind of like, oh, like that's a lot of air. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. But what does that mean? Is that bad? It's not like I'm all fire, but would that be bad too? Like,
right.
What is being all air? Like, what do you think that usually means about a person?
So, as I said, I found A Course in Miracles. Trust me, I'm going to answer the question. But I found A Course in Miracles at 23 when I really started to advance my study in astrology. So I had them together in stereo all the time. And The Course in Miracles talks about how each and every one of us are imbued with a highly individualized spiritual curriculum. And the attainment and the educational capstone is the attainment of inner peace. So from there, I just kind of approach astrology like, so then I just can't see I can't see such a thing as a bad chart, nor can I see such a thing as a good chart. It says, I believe in the manual for teachers that like all of us are special and none of us are special, right? So when people, and there are certain schools of astrological thought that have a little bit more to say about Venus in this sign or Mars in this one or Mercury here. And they claim that it empowers people, but I have not met those people who have felt empowered by that. So how fucking convenient. And I just don't see anything efficient when there is a deficit-based approach to a psychological assessment. And this is not my work and my research. I'm not on the top of my head. This is actually from a Virgo. His name was Dennis Salibi, and he was a social worker at the University of Kansas. And he created a whole social work model known as the strengths-based assessment. So when I see a chart and I see triple air, I want to talk about those strengths. We could talk about the fact that I could say, and Sam, you know what? You may just want to, because you have such an intellectual and rational and cognition-focused quality, just make sure that throughout the day, you really do tell people how you feel and you do take action and you inspire groundedness where you need it. But the universe gave you this chart because you have a job to do with triple air, and don't wonder why, you're a bird that's supposed to fly and you're trying to be a fish that's supposed to swim.
Yeah.
This is your nature, right? So like celebrate it. And there are many spiritual seekers that believe they're helping by focusing on everything that you don't have. And it's like, I'm sorry, can you read the chart that I do have, bitch? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So no, I would have been like, wow, that's cool. So are you in media? Are you in communications? Are you like writing a book? Are you on a podcast? I've been like, tell me about that. Right. Yeah. And then that's where you're meant to shine. Because if the universe wanted you to be a Cancer, you would have been fucking born a Cancer, but you weren't. Mm-hmm. So it's like, who were we to act like certain charts come pre-programmed with dysfunction and others don't?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, you
got me on a soapbox today.
I love being a Libra. Like, people.
As you should.
Libras are awesome. Like, I hope to have a Libra child one day, but guess what? I'll probably have a Scorpio. So, just kidding.
Oh my God, a lot of Libra moms that I know do have Scorpio kids, Sam, so you're fucking onto something.
I know, and it's going to be scary. I'm going to be like, oh no, when's the due date? All right, hold on, baby. Just don't come out yet.
Right. Don't get pregnant during Valentine's Day. There was a fucking hysterical meme that was like, if any of you get pregnant, you're going to have Scorpio, so just don't get pregnant.
Don't do it. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
So that made me laugh. I know. Or do it, because there's a real beauty in like the neighbor connection. But if you intuitively know that you're going to have a Scorpio child, I don't doubt it for a second. Love it.
So funny. Oh my gosh.
I love that. I mean, what about Sarah being a Cancer? Do you know your other signs, Sarah?
I don't know too many specifics. I have not really had a reading done on it ever. I mean,
wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, and it's so crazy because it's something that intrigues me so much that it's kind of like, I don't even know.
How did I get here?
How did I never, I mean, I know, intuitively in certain things, like I'm into, I can say I'm such a Cancer. I know that much, but
and honestly, you may not even need it. If you are feeling that intuitive intelligence, like God bless, as long as you're doing what the Cancer would do. But this is good too for me to know, because I think, it's important to acknowledge where people are at in terms of like introductory skill sets. So essentially what you'll want to know is that what the astrology readings can do, or like even the astrology apps are really informative, is you can learn the energy that you exude to the world. That's your rising sign. So the visibility energy, right? And then your moon sign is where your the crown jewel of your chart, as we said earlier, like your emotional software, your emotional nature, what you need to feel safe and secure. And then the sun sign represents the energy that you want to grow into. The sun sign represents the energy that you need to learn how to become. And so that will give you permission to be as multidimensional as you feel, and then just kind of like honor where you're at and what energy you're expressing at any given moment. And then just try your best to make the story of your chart as integrated as possible with the choices that you're making here.
So how does that work for someone like me who like has a different moon, but you know, my other two main signs, my sun sign and my rising sign, they're both Libra. So it's like, Libra, be yourself. Like,
well, is your sun in the 12th house or the first house? Do you know?
I can't remember.
Okay. No. So what you're going to want to know is that as you express the quality of Librans' relational intelligence, connection, the ability for you to make other people to feel safe to disclose, right? And your fluency in the arts of design, entertainment, pop culture, right? You will be very visible in that quality because Libra rising, Libra sun. Now, to go from the Aquarius moon community, essentially what it's asking you is, how can you make the Aquarius ethic of friendship apply to romance?
Interesting.
Right? Because, you know, with friends, we have a different set of ethics and expectations, haven't you noticed?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But when we're dating somebody, do we ever bring the friendship ethic of like, oh yeah, they didn't text me back, that's good. Like, it's fine, we'll figure it out? No. We get very like, excuse me, you need to da 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 da, and I want you to do it this way, and I want you to da 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 da, like all of that. And so to go from Aquarius to Libra is what Marianne Williamson, and I think Gabrielle Bernstein has said it as well, in terms of like, how can you make your friendships more romantic and your romances more friendly?
That's so interesting that you say that, because some of my, like, you know, not to have this be a therapy session, but personal, you know,
why not,
problems that I've had is like, you know, especially if I have a guy friend that we aren't romantic, that I do have expectations that I would of like a boyfriend to some of my actual friends. And they're like, whoa, like, we're not dating you. We don't need to like pick you up from the airport. You know, like, we don't need to do this. And I've often gotten it confused.
okay.
And I treat friends like I would treat a significant other, with the expectations.
Right. And then maybe if your sun is in the 12th, that's why I was like, where's this sun here? Because that really would help me understand. There could be how we vocalize these expectations proactively. Yeah. Right? Are we regulating these expectations? But the thing about Libra is they do take their relationships very seriously. And I think that's the beauty of Libra, right? Is that they remind us time and time again what Esther Perel and all the voices and personal growth tell us, is that the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our life.
I love that.
So I take counsel from Libra around that, right? Like, so you understand that, and that's an expectation, but are you vocalizing it? Are you fully self-accepted in it? Do your external experiences reflect that? And then you will find friends who feel like, you know, of course I'll show up for you. Like, we're besties. I got this, right? And then you will find lovers who have a little bit more of a lightheartedness, a little bit more of, I don't want to take myself too seriously. We're here to be friends and lovers at the same time. And you'll just really combine the best of romance and friendship. I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Validates it, but yeah.
I'm super interested in you. Like, you are a Gemini and have a twin. Is that crazy or what? And I mean, do you feel like you each hold like different sides of the coin, kind of like Gemini does?
I know. Oh my God, my twin sister Courtney, my beautiful, beautiful twin. She is. We're very different, but we're very similar. When we were growing up, I think there was a big psychological distance, because I think that as a gay boy, I was lying to myself all the time and lying to others. And I don't really think there's been enough research in terms of like what the trauma of self-deception of living in the closet does for people's personal growth, right? Like, because when I came out at 16, I was coming of age at a moment when maybe emotionally and psychologically I was like 11, because I was just not where everybody else was, you know? So when I was there, my sister and I were very different, but the best of friends, always showing up for each other, all of that. And then as I started to be, you know, get into my 20s and figure out what I wanted, she was already very sure. She was like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get married, have this. And she's done it, and she's so happy, and she's never been more peaceful and amazing. It just took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
Right. But now that I feel like I'm there, we have just such an extraordinary support system for each other. There's never any weird like competition or anything like that. There's just, you have your lane, I have mine. And they're actually very similar. She's a school psychologist. So she evaluates young learners and gets them the psychological, emotional support that they need in elementary schools in the state of North Carolina. So she does wonderful work there. And I want to work with couples. So she works with children, I work with couples. There's clearly a, you know, progression there. But it's wonderful. And she doesn't even understand astrology. She's like, I think I get it, but like I don't, you know. But I love that, because like she said to me when we were driving, she was like, I don't want to just be another person who's constantly asking you, tell me about my sign.
Yeah.
And she's like, I just want you to be my brother. I don't want you to be my astrologer. So, and she's been amazing. She's let me quarantine with her, and like we've had so much fun, and I got to just like witness her beautiful baby girl grow up. Like it's just been amazing. Yeah, I love being a Gemini twin, and it's wild. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, and Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen are Gemini twins. Laverne Cox and her twin brother are Gemini twins. Beyonce had a pair of Gemini twins, and I read somewhere like I don't know if it's totally accurate, that according to the census, the highest amount of multiple births, right, like twins, triplets, etc., all happen when the sun is in Gemini from May 20th to June 21st.
That's so interesting. So weirdly, so I'm not a twin, obviously.
Maybe you were. I don't know. Go ahead.
I do have this weird. My brothers and I were all born 6 days apart. And I think it's 7 hours apart on the clock, like years. I'm the oldest, and then the other one, and it goes in order too. So it's like the youngest birthday is on the 17th, the middle's on the 23rd, and I'm on the 29th. And then again, like on the clock, I think our difference is like 7 hours, and again, it goes from like youngest to oldest. So June is like, right? What does that mean? There's some significance with that. I mean, I'm super tight with my family, but Astrology, one's a Gemini, and then the other, my other brother and I are Cancers.
2 Cancers. Well, I'm so glad that like you as a Cancer feel deeply connected to your family.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
And I want to say something about that too. I think there's also like a misconception that like, you know, either you're born into a family that it's easy to get along with, or you're not. Mm-hmm. Right? But my family and I have been talking about that extensively. Like, we choose to be close to each other. Like, we work at it. It's not like, you know, we backed into the quality of our connection, you know? And it's interesting. The vast majority of my family, we all have Cancer somewhere in our chart. So like, we really get it, you know? Mm-hmm. And so what you said, I think, is beautiful, because it also confirms that like, you can choose in nuclear families to create really beautiful dynamics. Because to be really clinical, and I just like love the geekiness of it. So in like couples counseling work, they have this theory known as hostile dependence. And they actually see it the most in family, which means like, yeah, I'd really love to be close to my mom. I'd love to be close to my brother, my dad, but they don't do this and they don't do that. So I can only be close to them if they change first. Hostile dependence. So the theorists are like, isn't that fucking convenient?
Right.
So you don't have to do any of the work, they do, and then only after they do, then you'll change. And I feel like what Cancer, right? How's that supposed to work? It doesn't, right? And you and your Cancer bones, you know that. You know that to be true. You're constantly choosing new ways of relating, of connecting, of building family, of creating emotional safety, right? So I guess just the universe decided to pair you guys together. I love the visitor we have here. Pair you guys. I love it.
Sagittarius, like, get out of here.
Yeah. And like, no, they want the attention. No, your family just created that container for you to apply the best of your skills. And then you would want to then be a person who teaches the art of family relating and teaches the art of building sibling connection, because people are struggling with those tools. So if Cancer knows how to do it, then you teach.
Wow.
I know there. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, well, you say you like to work with couples.
Yes.
A lot. So do you take obviously into their compatibility astrologically, but and I'm sure your opinion is anybody could be a match, even if astrologically you're not.
Right.
But how do you use your astrology though to work with couples? Do you try to use like what their traits are, each one, to find compatibility between?
Yes. So I am of the belief that anybody can be compatible with anybody if the willingness is there. It's all about the willingness, right? And so in my readings, what I try to do is just provide the language that they need to communicate their wants and contexts for emotional safety, right? And there is something about a stranger who's never observed the off to the races we go, right? That says, well, what they really just want is for you to positively affirm them. Thank you. Oh my God. And this guy's going, how the fuck did he know that? Right. But like, that is just what the fuck she said today. Right. And then I tell other people, like, he's a Sagittarius moon girl. Leave him alone. Give him a comfortable distance. He'll come back. Yes. I just need a minute. She starts talking as soon as I wake up. I just need to fucking get my coffee. Blah, 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 blah. So that's the best part, is to tell the story, right? But I always tell the astrological story in connection to the world's leading literature on relational psychodynamics, couples counseling, and all of that, because astrology could really benefit from having a little bit more of an evidence-based approach to those conversations. So we'll talk about, the Gottman Institute and how they help other people accept bids for connection. We talk about what the research is on forgiveness. We talk about the research on infidelity, right? Because what's a bigger betrayal than that? So we go there. But it's really, for me, it's the most meaningful work, because before COVID, the number one health crisis was loneliness. And when do we talk about that?
We don't. Yeah.
We don't. And if you as a Cancer, actually, because of your family, know how to connect, that's your gift. If you as a triple air sign, Sam, know how to relationally ask the right questions and show up for the people that you love and all of that, like, that's where you contribute. So there's all these ways that we can address it. And I just feel like couples, it's my favorite experiment. It's my favorite laboratory to like really tinker this stuff. And I have the best time. I love it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that got me. I recently just started dating somebody, and he's a Sagittarius, which is somebody that I'm usually like, I go for the Geminis all the time. All the time.
They all do. No, I'm just kidding.
Seriously, it's like, I know right away. I'm like, oh, you're a Gemini.
What? Oh, wait. Let me ask, what is it about Geminis that you're drawn to? Because I'll tell you what they love about Cancer.
I love characters, so I feel like it's people who are like larger than life. Where as a writer or a storyteller, I'm like, I could write you, like you're like poetry to me, So sweet. Yeah, Geminis kind of have that. I don't know. They have a power over me for sure.
I love it. You probably have a house in your chart that's ruled by Gemini that rules pleasure, self-disclosure, trust, or intimacy.
So I can't wait to find all this stuff out.
Yes. But you're doing the Sag, sorry. They're opposite.
Right. So this is like exactly right. This is like, could not be more opposite. But, and that's why I asked, because I had asked him what his sign was, and he's like, why? And he told me, he's like, well, I wouldn't put too much stock into it. I was like, oh.
And what did I say about the skeptics? What did I say? Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. Such a fucking
like, it's fine. I'm good for both of us. Like, I'll like tell you when, tell you what I see in the stars. It's fine.
Here's what you tell him. You'd be like, don't tell me what I can and cannot put stock in, Sag. Thank you so much. If I wanted fucking advice from that, I would have asked, but I didn't. So keep your opinion to yourself. And I'm only doing that because they love it when you tell them, shut the fuck up.
Oh my God. He's great. Meanwhile, he's fantastic. Different than any other guy I've ever dated. So yeah, I'm interested in the cup. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how I would, even though, I'm more of a believer than he is. I'm wondering how that coupling
would intersect.
Would work. Yeah.
And again, like you need to be on every podcast that I do, because I forget that people don't have their charts like right here, right? So like you're just the person I need to like, honey, make it 101. Okay, make it introductory.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, what you could do is when you run your chart by the birth dates, the exact time and the location, you can have the whole analysis, and the relational planets are Moon, Venus, Mars. The sun is important, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I really think it's like Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, right? And then when you see like, oh, I have a Venus in Gemini, or a Venus in Cancer, or Venus in Leo, you will see what you find attractive. And then you'll see what you find romantically beautiful. Like, what is it about this relationship that yearns you to them? And then Mars rules your eroticisms and your wants and your desires. So it's what you find attractive and what you really want to inhabit in terms of life force and sexuality. So when you know that, then you know how to understand your partner, because you may have a Mars in Taurus, which is like, I need a little bit more foreplay. I don't want 10 minutes before the real thing. The fuck, right? Whereas he could have a Mars in Leo and he's like, I want it now, 10 minutes before the real thing, 10 minutes after the real thing. We're going to do it. And so it's just cool to know how astrology can help you guys understand your stories and scripts.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Leo, the last thing I wanted to talk about was, now we're in Leo season, and I was watching
Yes, we are.
Instagram, IGTV videos. You know, this is the time to discover our sexuality and really like live that out. But, you know, jealous of Siri at the moment, just because she started dating someone, and you should be good to go on that. But for someone like me who's very single and is being very careful with the virus and is likely not going to be out and about getting laid this month, like, unfortunately, how am I supposed to, you know, live out my like Leo vibes this?
Right. That, like, how do single people do it? Girl, me too. I've been single for 7 years. Like, I'm annoyed. Okay, so
I was in this conversation up until COVID started.
Lucky you,
I
Cancer.
probably had you all beat as far as single the longest.
All right, but yeah, you're not anymore, so you don't count.
Yeah,
okay?
now.
Way to go, you got your badge. Well, I think what I'm trying to do with COVID is create astrological conversations that are not circumstance dependent, situationally based, or externally defined. Meaning, like, in order for you to be a Leo, you got to get dressed up and go around town where all the bars are closed. Or in order for you to like make the most of Leo season, you like go on a hot, sexy date and like do a with a face mask, right? So maybe, I don't know. But what I think what we want to see Leo season as is not necessarily behavior on that level, but on self-disclosure, right? Because the brightest star in the Leo constellation is Regulus, the lion's heart. And when we think of the lion's heart, we think of courage, Wizard of Oz, that theme, da 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 da. And the original definition of courage was not, you know, let me rescue a baby from a burning building. It was the act of telling the story of your whole heart.
Yeah.
Which any one of us can do at any moment with the people that genuinely need to hear it.
Yeah.
So when you flex that self-disclosure muscle, because I think with Libra, they know that's messy, that's complicated. I run the risk of rejection, criticism, abandonment, betrayal, and blame. No, thank you. Right? And I understand that, because vulnerability sucks. Vulnerability is gross. It is necessary for a meaningful life, though. That's the cost of admission.
I love that.
Right? And Leo season is like, look, this is the month to learn. This is the month to apply. There's a season for everything. And this is the season for self-disclosure. And that word sounds really like clinical and kind of stale, but what is more beautiful than like you telling somebody who you have a crush on, this is what I love and this is what I want, and they're just as excited to hear it as you were to say it.
Yeah.
And we can do that at any moment. We could do that on a fucking FaceTime. We could do it with family. But it's all about training that skill and that technique, because when your partner gets here, Sam, you want to be ready with the readiness level and the skills and the techniques to apply what you've learned about vulnerability, so that you're not like, oh my God, I'm competing at the Olympics. I didn't even practice for this.
Yeah.
Right? Could you imagine? And I'm thinking of those fears where, like, remember when teachers would be like, okay, like, you're going to present today. And you're like, funny story about that, Teach. Let me tell you, right? Like, why not use this month to work on the readiness level for that, so that when they get here, you can slam it out of the park like nobody's business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I have this book that I must have gotten. I think I saw a psychic or medium probably 8 years ago, and I asked about advice for my love life and how to find my person. And she recommended this book called, I think it's something like Finding the One or something. It's this workbook.
Calling in the One. Calling in the One.
Yes. Yep. And it's just been, and somehow it's here at my mom's house, and it's been literally sitting on the ground staring at me ever since I got here. And I'm like, I guess I should finally open that book. Maybe this would be a good time.
It totally would be. And for listeners, like, she just put her finger on her face, like, doink, right? And it was like a perfectly well-planned Libra moment. Yeah. You didn't even need to ask me what you need to do during Leo season. You need to fucking read that book because it was staring at you. That's the universe telling you.
Staring at me.
And there's so much strength, Sam, in you getting very clear on what you want. Mm-hmm. Which, again, can we bring up wanting here around Aries and Cancer as well? Because this is a theme as well. I know we use the word need a lot in the higher consciousness crowd. Like, what are my needs? What is this? What do I need to have this? What are my emotional needs for safety? But there's no excitement there.
Yeah.
You know, and if I said I need this, I need that, it sounds like a demand. Let's be clear, because where's your negotiation or compromising? Can you bitches compromise? If I say I need this, you're going to be like, I guess we got to give it, or say fuck you, right? So the needs quality, I think we want to let go of. We want to go to wanting. Like, I want this excitement. And it makes you open-hearted. It makes you seductive. It makes you passionate. It makes you charismatic. It puts you in your element, right? And I want you in this book to really figure out, where am I responding from a place of want because it excites me and I'm imagining, rather than a place of need, which is just a reenactment of the stuff I didn't get from early childhood. So I'm subconsciously programming the present moment to hold somebody accountable for the sins of what somebody did in the past and calling it a need.
Oh, yeah. You need to hit the nail on the head with that one.
Right. And that's what this book can give you, is just the capacity to reframe, to go, really, the only thing I need is shelter, psychological safety, and, emotional health, which I think I have here. So I don't need anybody to do anything for me. I want them to do something, which is a completely different energy. And it's just sexy. And that's actually what your opposite sign is supposed to teach you. So always look to your polar opposite for like the prime instruction, right? So for you, it's Libra. And then for you, it's Capricorn. So like Capricorn teaches Cancer to like, girl, get a fucking emotional grip. You're going to self-sabotage if you don't take a goddamn breath. It ain't about you, right? Like, don't wreck yourself, calm yourself, get over it and get over yourself. And then with Aries teaching you, it's like, you're allowed to want. You're allowed to want for yourself. You're allowed to be excited about what you want. You're allowed to be direct about it. You're allowed to be courageous about it. Because there's nothing sexier than like big Aries energy walking into a room, just like, call it. Have you dated one?
Yeah, I've dated a bunch of Aries. Yeah.
See, and I've dated a bunch of my polar opposite signs too. There's nothing like it. And the fact that they appeared kind of in that saturated, a bunch of them, that's because it's like, Sam, really get this lesson. Get this lesson. Get this lesson.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. I don't know if that's a long-winded answer, but
it's a great answer. And that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much. So much. Please tell everyone where they can follow you, what you have going on right now.
Sure. They can follow me at Queer Cosmos, QUEERCOSMOS. I have nothing professional going on because, girl, I am taking a break. Well, right now I'm not, but I'm going to take a break during Mars retrograde from September 13th and beyond. But yeah, I'd love to stay in touch with your people, and I really appreciate the opportunity for me to connect with them by having me on here.
Oh, of course.
It was such a pleasure getting to know you.
You too.
That was so great.
Yes, and I hope that you have a wonderful astrology session at some point.
With you, I want to do it with you. We'll have to do a part 2 and like break it all down and.
Yes, I'm gonna open my books again at the end of the year.
Okay.
So we'll do it right around the holidays if you'd like, and we can finally tell you like, here's your rising, here's your moon.
Perfect.
Call it what it is.
Yeah. And thank you all so much for tuning in. You can follow us on Instagram at Spiritual Spiral Show, and you can follow me at SamD43 and Sari at the Savvy Scribbler. Hit us up. Let us know your thoughts on the show. We always love talking to you. So we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.